This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD via Zoom, Vetress Boyce, who is running for 24th Ward Alderperson. Welcome, Vetress. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. And to WCRD, also we have to state this. We provide equal time to all other candidates, and we love interviewing candidates for elected office. So please contact station manager at WZRDChicago.org. Well, Beatrice, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself first and why you decided to run for alderperson.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a lifetime Chicago citizen, born and raised here. Spent a great majority of my life right here on the west side of Chicago. My grandparents actually migrated in North Lawndale from the South, fleeing slavery. My parents met here and they married. 6 children, so I have 5 siblings. My background is I spent 25 years in corporate America. The last position held was the VP of Operations for an import-export company. We actually were the middle company for Craftsman and Dayton Power Tools. So I spent 25 years working in shipping, receiving, import, export, and manufacturing. I also did a lot of real estate development. So I was a real estate developer in Bronzeville, one of the first African-American females to actually launch a development project in the Bronzeville area. I am a mother of 6 adult children. I have 14 grandchildren. I own a beauty supply store right here in the 24th Ward where I'm running at 3722 West 16th Street. And I've done a lot of consulting, fighting for reparations, on the front line, fighting to keep our schools open. When the prior administration under Rahm Emanuel closed 50 schools in the Black communities, I also was on the front line battling for or against police brutality. So I've done a lot in my 58 years of living. And I want to encompass all of that and help steer the quality of life that the residents in the 24th Ward deserve.
How did you bridge your corporate ladder climbing with your public service? What came first and why did the second one come in after the first?
Okay. I started my corporate career at the age of 21, and I was a single mom. I was a teenage mother also, so I had my first child at the age of 17. And so I went back to school. I did graduate from high school, and I went back to school. It was called the First Business College, and I took up word processing. Back then, that's what it was called, word processing. So I became a word processing specialist, and that helped me land the job in corporate. And so I know what it takes to come from humble beginnings. Not born with a silver spoon, but it felt more like a hot fork. And just working my way through poverty, being raised by a single mother. And, it was tough in this community, but I did not let the product of my environment dictate my future. And so when I ran for alderman in 2011, this is my 3rd election. So when I ran for alderman in 2011, I was still in corporate. But when I really got out on the street and I saw the devastation and the hurt and the racism and the disinvestment in the community, I decided to not go back to corporate. And I stayed out on the battlefield fighting to make sure that I could take what I've learned in corporate to make a difference in the lives of the residents, my family and friends right here in the 24th Ward.
Mm-hmm. What about police brutality? Was there something that also happened to you or someone you knew that influenced you?
Wow. I've watched a lot of police brutality throughout my life. Being a young African-American girl from the west side of Chicago, we saw quite a bit. There was a lot of drug dealing, prostitution. We've always dealt with high levels of crime. And police brutality, the first one that really sparked an interest for me, well, they all sparked an interest, but the Laquan McDonald case, 16 shots and a cover-up, that was just beyond the force that was used was completely unnecessary in that case. And so me and my family, we stood, on the ground fighting and protesting. We know the family. And we wanted to, improve how residents in our community are looked upon and treated by the Chicago Police Department. There's in some form, shape, or fashion a disconnect. And so we need more community policing in our community. We need policemen that understand us as a people, as a generation, as multiple generations, and what we deal with on a day-to-day level. I think police department needs to get help from outside sources when you're dealing with mental issues. I mean, there are a lot of mental issues, that's embedded into our communities. When you look on the west side of Chicago, during the daytime, it looks like a psych ward. It's just not fair how we live. And at night, it's like a war zone. And so that takes a specific type of training to deal with the cases, to deal with the children and what they're dealing with, within their homes and the failed school systems. And so the aggressiveness at the Chicago Police Department sometimes can be, over the top. Even though, I am in support of policemen, we do need them. We do need protection, but it's how it's done that we need to revisit.
Mm-hmm. Do you have solutions about how to create the balance of helping the community, the police helping the community and controlling crime? Do you have any plans on how to strike the balance?
Absolutely. If you look at the task force, the police department in the 24th ward, and also in connecting communities like the 28th ward, a great deal of the staff don't look like us. So how do we get more African American men and women into the police academy and on the police force? Where can we impact that the most? And the solution, one of the solutions that I have is starting it in high school. We used to have a lot of home economic courses in high school. So for some reason that has, been taken away from our educational component. And I believe if we get our young men interested in the high school phases, we can get more policemen that truly understand the dynamics of what it is to be Black in the city of Chicago, in the United States of America. And once we can do that, have people on the force that live here and understand us, we can, and training, we have to do more in getting the police officers trained on how to handle cases. The police deal with a lot. They deal with a lot. I mean, they want to go home safe. Crime is running rampant across this entire city. And until we get areas like the 24th ward that has been disinvested in for years, economically stable, where we can compete socially, economically, and politically, we will continue to see the rise in crime and the spread of crime.
Mm-hmm. And do you know of any police officers in the 24th ward that are role models that do come from the neighborhood, or are there not even one?
Well, I do. I know of some that don't live here, but I also know of some that actually live here that want to do the right thing. And again, I truly believe that we need to do a greater job at conducting mental analysis of those that we hire on the police force. And we have to do better. I'm hearing from a lot of the police officers that they're overworked, they're working long hours. And when you're fatigued, everybody's at risk. They put their lives at risk. They put the community's lives at risk. And so we have to do more in taking care of their mental needs. Policemen are committing suicide at a very high rate. We need to look into why is that? Why? And a lot of police officers, I know they're just tired and fatigued. They want better. So we have to work with the police department as well so that we can provide them the needed resources, whatever else that they need to make sure that their mental capacity is considered and taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Do you know of any other police departments, maybe in models of police department that parallel what you're hoping to achieve, such as training introducing young high school students to become law enforcement officers in their own community, and helping police to address their fatigue, and having enough resources for the police. Are there any departments that you could look to see if how it's done?
I don't know of any departments that's actually implementing the curriculum in high schools. I don't know of that. But if you look in our surrounding suburban areas, you don't really see what's happening within the urban areas of the city of Chicago. So what are those areas doing to keep crime down? I can't say if their suicidal rate is lower than the police officers with the City of Chicago Police Department, but a lot of the surrounding suburban areas, they don't deal with the things that we deal with in our community. So those are role models as to how our communities can function. And again, that goes to say that community policing is key, and we need people that live here to police our streets. And there are other what do you call them, security firms that are interested in assisting the Chicago Police Department in making sure that our streets are safe, the buses are safe, the trains are safe. I think in some ways we probably need to source out some of the responsibilities to bring in other forms of security to help our Chicago Police Department.
And it seems as if what you mentioned earlier about the disinvestment in Lawndale, that's not happening in the suburbs. Yeah, maybe that that might be the key to get more investment in Lawndale. Do you have any plans? North Lawndale. How do you have any plans on how to address this disinvestment? It's so widespread.
Poverty is the component to crime. Years of vacancies, vacant lots, closed schools, abandoned buildings, food deserts, you name it, it's happening in our communities. So we have vacant lots in our community that have been vacant since the Martin Luther King riot back in 1958. They're still vacant. Now, the city of Chicago has begun some infrastructure work that's attracting developers now. So poverty leads to every element that we're dealing with in the 24/4. And my background in development, in watching, and also watching how other communities, you have Lincoln Park. I remember years ago, Lincoln Park was not what it is today, but the development has boosted the economy in Lincoln Park. Bronzeville was considered the low end, but because of investing in the community, you boost the economy. The west sides and south sides of Chicago, we have been neglected, severely neglected. Now, what I have fought for is legislation to help kind of balance the disinvestment components as it relates to African Americans in the city of Chicago. And it's not a very popular topic, but it's a necessary one. And that's reparations. I fought with Dr. Wilson, Alderman Sawyer, Cam Buckner of Incobra, and with some other team members, and we were successful at getting reparations passed as legislation with the city of Chicago. That legislation has also passed in the state of Illinois. And the legislation and the movement that was started here in Chicago started a national movement. So you have other local areas that are now enforcing reparations legislation. And I'll give you one example, the city of California. They're actually further ahead than we are, but we started before they did in Chicago. And so that component that's missing in Chicago is getting someone in city council that's not afraid to tackle it, that's not afraid to say African Americans has been mistreated, disinvested in, and used without compensation in this country for years, and now it's time to pay the debt. We have the Jewish population that receive reparations. We have the Chinese Koreans that have received reparations, and the Indians. We're the only nationality, the only race of people that have not been given restitution for the harm that's been done to our people in this country, including the state of Illinois. So having a component where we can specifically fund to help African American communities to get at least on a, like I said, an equal playing field economically is key. And that is another reason why I'm running, is to be a voice in city council, a strong voice that can push that narrative to say, you have to reinvest in our communities. And North Lawndale would be, you know, the example of that, rising economically from a strong voice that understands economics, that understands how to put the components together. And I'm clearly aware how the process of economics starts from the cradle to the grave. We're missing so many housing components over here. The vacant lots, we don't have houses. Houses generate revenue. Housing generates tax revenue. It generates revenue, you know, with gas and light. And then you have people that can shop at local stores that can also generate revenue, bringing businesses back to the west side of Chicago, grocery stores and stores that we shop at as African Americans. All of that is a component of building economic development. And I'm experienced in that, and I'm ready to finally get the job done here.
In Bronzeville, do you know if ever since the developers came in and the area has improved, has that improvement helped the original residents? Are the original residents, a lot of them, are they still living there, or did they have to move out because of the rising cost of maybe rent or homes?
Well, and see, this is a part of gentrification.
Mm-hmm.
Gentrification took place in Bronzeville, which is something that we're not going to allow in the 24th Ward. There's a way to reinvest in a community and not displace the people. Yes, and the answer to your question is yes. Prior to Bronzeville becoming a cornerstone for development, a lot of the projects were torn down. And so subsidized living existed in those projects. So they tore them down, and a lot of the people from the projects in the Bronzeville area moved throughout the city of Chicago and some surrounding suburban areas. So in the 24th Ward, our goal, my goal, if elected, is to not displace the people. We can build affordable housing here, affordable housing that respects the AMI. The AMI is the average medium income. The average medium income in North Lawndale is anywhere between $24,000 to $26,000. So how can we get housing here to make sure that people are not displaced? So we have to have a subsidized housing component when it comes to housing development. But we also have to figure out ways to build houses for people that want to own homes with that income. And how do you do that? Through reparations. The majority of the population in the 24th Ward is African American. We're open and we're welcoming people of other ethnicities to live amongst us. We're not saying that we're not open to that. We are, because it's going to take all of us to build a community united together. But we have to make sure that the people that have a vested interest here, that are stakeholders here, that have years of history here, stay here. And we can do that with the component of reparations mirrored with investment. So let's just say, for instance, I'll give you an example. To build an average home, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom for a family of 4, the average cost is roughly between $250,000 to $300,000. So how can a family that's making anywhere between $25 to $50 buy a house like that? We would have to ask the government to subsidize a great deal of the construction costs, so that house to a family that is grounded in the 24th Ward. Let's get some additional support for them. So let's ask the government to fund at least $100,000 towards their family through reparations, so that their family can afford to stay in this community. And now their house has instant equity. And so now we can have a diverse type of living here, not just one level of income, but a variety level of incomes, but we're all safe and we feel like we're living the quality of life.
Mhm. Do you know of any communities that have applied reparations to in the manner that you showed us?
Well, not in that particular manner, but in Evanston. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Robin Rue Simmons. She was once alderman in Evanston, and she pushed the reparations agenda. They're utilizing the marijuana tax dollars to help fund their reparations agenda in Evanston. And currently, I believe that they're rolling out the housing component of it, where homeowners are actually getting $25,000 towards repairing their homes. So that program is not as aggressive as the one that I'm speaking about, as far as building new homes and making them affordable. It's similar, but it's not exact. Now in California, they're getting ready, well, they're proposing legislation to actually pay a financial portion of reparations to the African-American descendants of slaves there, to the tune of 200,000+, which will give people a leg up to buy property, to invest in property, because that is where the wealth lie. The wealth lie in home ownership, but you have to have jobs and careers to maintain home ownership as well. So there are various components that will need to be addressed.
What about the funding for the reparations that you've described? What will the funding come from?
Well, again, in Evanston, it's coming from the marijuana tax dollars.
Right.
So in Chicago, that's something that we will be addressing, exactly where the funding is coming from. I hate to hear people say that, there is no money. There is money. We just had a $1.7 trillion infrastructure bill that was passed by the Biden administration. And if you really look into that bill, and if you dissect that bill, there is a lot of funding that's going outside of this country. I believe 43 million is going over to Ukraine. And so if the United States can help countries outside of the United States that have participated in wars, they can definitely help communities that are living in a war zone day by day. So there is a way to appropriate funding to these communities that they have intentionally disinvested in years. And until they do that, the crime that we see will continue to spread. We all have got to come to the table, and we've got to put some components in place to address the harm that has been placed upon Black communities in the city of Chicago for decades.
When you talk with the community members, what do they think of your plans?
The community love my plans. Again, this is my third time running for alderman. I ran in 2011 in a race of 18 people. 18 people in 2011. I was still working in corporate. And I forced a runoff in 2018 with two incumbent aldermen, Michael Chandler and Sharon Dixon. So I came in third out of 18. I ran again in 2015, and I landed in a runoff with Michael Scott Jr., who was the current alderman who stepped down. And my plan has not changed from 2011 to 2023. My plan has always been economic development. Until we build our communities economically, we will continue to see the devastation that we have lived forever. Lawndale we're close to downtown. We have more transit access than any other part of the city. You can stand on Roosevelt Road and see downtown, the downtown skyline. It's a beautiful place to live, but we have to make it beautiful for everybody and safe. We need to make Lawndale has so much history here. I mean, we have so many historic landmarks here, and we need to invest in that. And that's what we've been missing. So the community love my ideas. I mean, I put my beauty supply store on 16th Street. I was told that it wouldn't flourish, that it wouldn't do well. Well, we just celebrated a 1-year anniversary. We've cleaned up the strip in which we are, and it looks different. It has a different feel. So we have to do this block by block, but it's going to take people with a plan that knows how to get it done. It's going to take an individual that's not afraid of City Hall, that's not afraid to tackle unpopular issues. It's going to take a voice of reason and a voice of experience to get it done. We can no longer afford to do the same thing in the 24th ward expecting different results.
Who, if anyone, is opposing your plans, other than, of course, your opponents?
Well, I wouldn't say that there is any one person in particular that's opposing my plan, but as far as me getting elected, there is a status quo in our community that wants to maintain power. And in my opinion, it's a power that has not benefited the people in which they serve. We have had alderman after alderman after alderman, and our community continues to be a war zone. It continues with poor education. I mean, just the overall appeal of our schools is not something that a child feels good, you know, in going to. Those schools should be STEM schools. They should be state-of-the-art learning facilities. We need grocery stores. We don't even have quality grocery stores in our community. They're considered food deserts. But for so long, that power has been controlled by a certain group of people. But it's going to take the community to come out to say, we demand change. I am not connected to that power. I am not connected to any community organization that has been benefiting off the backs of the poor people in this community. I'm coming as a voice for the people, a voice that knows how to get the job done. This is the third time. I keep hearing the third time's a charm, but I'm feeling really good about this election. I have not given up. I will continue to stand for what's right, and I will continue to fight until it's done.
When you talk about the status quo, do you mean the Democratic Party machine, or?
That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. You know, we've been taught since childhood, and I can remember my parents and grandparents, vote Democrat, vote Democrat. So we've been taught to vote Democrat. But if you look at the United States symbol, the eagle, right? They share the same mouth and the same rectum. You have a left wing and you have a right wing, right? And sometimes people say you can go too far left, you can go too far right. But even with the left and the right wing, they share the same verbiage, the same language, they share the same mouth, and they share the same rectum. Where does the people fit in? What's the benefit to the people, right? So I can't say in the ward where I live that voting Democrat has been a benefit. I can't say voting Republican will be a benefit. But what I can say that it's time to get leadership and representation that's finally for the people and not pro-party. It's time to be pro-people. And whomever has the access to resources that can help bridge the wealth gap, help minimize the crime rate, the death rate of our young African-American men and now women. Where are the resources? We need to sit at the table with those with the resources, say, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help. We need help. We need the helping party.
So are you nonpartisan, or do you still identify with the Democratic Party?
I identify as a Democrat, but I'm not the status quo Democrat. I cannot sit back. As an elected official, I will be embarrassed to say that I'm governing a community like North Lawndale. When you walk and you see the garbage, just the abandonedness in general, when you watch the news and you see the bloodshed, it's like a war zone of young Black children on the street every day. How could anybody sit collecting a paycheck and a pension and be proud of that? And not hitting these streets daily, not sitting down with the police department, coming up with solutions, not demanding that the mayor bring resources to Chicago, not taking trips yourself. down to DC and speaking with the legislators, demanding access to resources for our community. There is no way that I would not have insisted in sitting down with the Biden administration with this $1.7 trillion infrastructure bill and not make sure that this board has access to revenue that can help build the economy here. I would not just have sat back and depended on my legislator to go down and lobby from our community, because it hasn't been done. So connecting with every aspect or element of the legal system here, your state rep, your Cook County commissioner, your congressperson, your senator, your U.S. senator, your state senator, is key. Is key. Together, we can grab those resources and do what we need to do. Non-for-profit entities are great. They're needed, but we need profiting entities to move the dial here.
Do you have any allies among other candidates or other office holders, other public officials?
When this position opened, I got several calls, but, you know, because our alderman stepped down. Michael Scott Jr. stepped down, and the position opened up for an appointment. When Mayor Lori Lightfoot got elected, she removed the aldermanic privilege. Normally, when a vacancy occurs, the committeemen sit and they decide who's going to be appointed to that petition, to that position until the next election. But the mayor used her authority to select an individual, and she selected the sister of the alderman. So the community was not happy with that at all. I got phone calls that morning from political officials. I even put in an application for the appointment, and I got several letters of recommendations from community, business owners, stakeholders, and politicians stating that they would like to see me in that seat.
When you started in your career at 21 years old in corporate, did you work for a company? You did work for a company, but then when did you step away to create your own business?
I've always had entrepreneurship in my blood. So while working in corporate, I created my own development company. So I real estate development business, and I developed condominiums in Bronzeville. So I've always had the blood for entrepreneurship, but I stepped away from my corporate position when I ran for alderman in 2011 here in the 24th Ward. This is where I wanted to be. It was a tough decision. I sacrificed a lot. I will tell you that. I lost a lot in the process, but nothing compares to being able to make a difference in the lives of everyday people that don't have a voice. So that resonated more in my spirit. And even while in corporate, I would always lobby for the employees for pay raises. And, you know, I was in charge of writing the operational manual in corporate, putting together the FMLA plans and leave of absences. So I took that on just to make sure that the employees were treated fairly. I would, you know, sit in on interviews and pay raises to make sure, you know, that the employees were paid compared to the market rate across the industry. So that has always been in my blood. So when I got a taste of politics when I ran in 2011, this is where I want to be. This is my purpose. I'm not afraid, you know, of work. I'm not afraid of tackling, you know, like I said, unpopular issues, but necessary issues. And so I stayed in the field, finding my way, and I'm here. I'm still standing. Again, I sacrificed a lot. I have lost a lot, but I feel fulfilled. I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And that's why I'm still here. And that's why I'm here a third time, trying to become alderman of the 24th Ward.
When you run and you say that you lost a lot, so you spent a lot of your own money, I guess, right?
Yes.
And then were you challenged in all three elections? Were your petition signatures challenged?
I was challenged in 2011. I was challenged in 2015, but of course beat the challenges. I was not challenged in this election. And I will have to say this about the challenging process in the city of Chicago. It is severely broken, and it's a process that is intended for the incumbent to stay the incumbent and to run unopposed. And after watching a friend go through that process, this is something that needs to be looked at. Why do we operate this way in the city of Chicago? Why is it that people have the option to challenge signatures and petitions when they know that the challenge will not stick? It's a waste of taxpayers' money. It's very stressful. And look, we have the right as a citizen of this country to run for elected office. And that right needs to stand. We should not have to deal with the erroneous challenges that come about. I was just looking at the list of candidates that put petitions in versus the ones that got challenged and knocked off the ballot. I think it's so unfair. If an incumbent has done their job, they wouldn't get challengers, right? They shouldn't fear being reelected if you're doing what you're hired to do. People have a right to run for office. And I do not like the challenge process in the city of Chicago. I feel like it's severely broken. I feel like laws are broken. And I really would love for the Inspector General to get involved and to look at these processes forensically.
When you're trying to push for reparations, even when you're not in office, how could you describe a little bit about how you did that? The name of any bills that you're pushing to pass, and how you got your allies and how you will be working with these allies when if you're elected as Alderperson of the 24th Ward.
Absolutely. The process to push reparations, it actually took us 2 years. So Alderman Rod Sawyer, he just, stepped down to run for mayor, but he's the alderman of the 6th Ward in the city of Chicago, was very instrumental in pushing that bill through council. He got a lot of, pushback for it, but without him, I really don't think that it would have happened. We also had Dr. Willie Wilson, who financed getting all the legal components in place for this bill. Without him, this could not have happened. He just pulled it up one day and said, this is what I want to go after. I think it's time to push reparations across the city of Chicago. And so with that being said, we have in COBRA, the National Reparations Organization, Cam Howard, who was the national chairperson at the time. And we also work with Robin Ruth Simmons in Evanston. And so with that team, we had to get out. We had to make people aware that this is what we were doing. We had to actually send emails and bug the aldermen, knock on their doors, make visits to them. Is everything okay?
Yeah, well, you look very well. You sound very well. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yes.
Okay. So we had to knock on the alderman doors. We had to make visits. We had to convince them to support this initiative. Mm-hmm. It was not easy. We had the hardest pushback from the African-American aldermen. Quite a few of the Caucasian and the Hispanics came on board. We were asked to educate the city of Chicago and the aldermen on what reparations is. And so we hosted several symposiums across the city to first educate. And so after we did that, they came on board and they supported. They voted 47-3 in the initial bill. However, that bill was rescinded by the mayor. It was a resolution, but it was rescinded by the mayor. And we were asking for $1 million to help fund it so that we can get people from all 77, I believe, communities to sit and write it. And so that they could be, compensated for the time, because we knew that it would take some time. But the bill was rescinded. The money component of it was abstracted from the bill, and it was resubmitted for vote without any funding. And so it's been sitting in council now for 2 years. It's just been sitting there. And we've been, working, trying to really get it pushed. And so me being elected will help push that initiative.
So does that mean that the Democratic Party does not support it, and that that's why it was pushed to the side, and the money taken out from it?
Well, yeah, that was part of the mayor's, that was part of something that she did, where they took the money out of the bill. So I can't say, I can't say that the Democrat Party did that. The Alderman actually voted for the resolution, including the funding. And I was told that the mayor's administration asked them to rescind it, and they re-voted for it without the money component in it. So I can't say that that was the Democrat Party in general.
What would be what is the time frame? How much could you accomplish? You have very deep plans and to change the community. How long do you think it would? How much do you think you could accomplish in 4 years?
Oh my God, I think it's not a thought. I know I can accomplish quite a bit in 4 years. You asked the question earlier about my professional career. That professional career has prepared me for such a time as this. In corporate, as a VP, it took professionals in every department to make the company successful. So we have to look at the accounting department, the shipping and receiving department, the marketing department, right? So hiring the right team to run the aldermanic office in this ward is vital. We have not had that. We need people in that office that are professional, that understand the landscape of the city and how to move the dial forward. We need people that are not afraid to speak up, that can handle all of the constituency services requests, as well as legislation, as well as marketing this community to bring forth businesses. We need a team. We need an aldermanic office that's effective. We need an aldermanic office that's in the same building as the other elected officials. So collectively, we can bring forth resources and revenue to move the dial here. It's time. It's time for a professional outlook. I want an aldermanic office that people feel good about coming to. I mean, far too often our alderman offices aren't reflective of what the community should be. It's a reflection of what the community is. We have to change the dynamics of that. And I'm here to do that day one, hit the ground running. I don't need any training. I'm familiar with city council. The aldermen that are sitting in city council are familiar with me. People know me in politics, period, in the city of Chicago. And they have personally said to me, I can't wait to work with you. Together, we can get the job done.
What other, what besides reparations, have you worked with the other aldermen before? What, how have you worked with these other aldermen besides in reparations?
Well, in my community, a lot of the constituents call on me for constituency services. If there's a water main broken, if they need new garbage cans, if there's garbage that hasn't been picked up, I get those calls. And I have gotten calls for letters of support. A couple of times, people have come to me and I will call the alderman and I will write the letter and send it to the alderman and have him put it on his letterhead. I've done that on a congressional level as well. So this is not new to me. I'm ready. I'm ready to hit the ground running. So I've worked across the landscape as it relates to policy, legislation, community engagement. I've helped a lot of businesses obtain access to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund grant, even when I didn't finish the process. I've helped businesses complete their applications for other grant programs as it relates to the city in helping businesses. So this is not new for me. I've consulted on levels where we've helped people get their minority certifications, 501c3s. We've done a lot. I've done a lot collectively with some great people.
So in other words, you're already doing a lot of things that an alderperson would be doing, even though you have not been elected to office yet.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's not the position that drives me. It's not the position of saying I'm the alderman that drives me. It's wanting to help people, wanting to serve, and having the ability to do it. I am great at connecting people to resources, and I do that. It's just a part of everyday life for me. It doesn't feel like a job. When it's your passion, it just feels like a normal part of life. And that is what this is for me.
How many other candidates are running in the 24th Ward?
There are a total, I believe, of 7 to 8 candidates. I see maybe 4 that are active. And out of the candidates that are running, I've only worked slightly with maybe, I think maybe one of them. The others, even the alderman's sister, I have not seen in the political landscape.
What about automatic privilege? If you don't have that, how would that impede you, if at all?
It will not. It will not. I'm the type of person, you throw me in a room with a pack of wolves, I'm coming out leading the pack. Chicago is known for a strong mayor, weak council, but it's designed to be strong council, weak mayor. So when you build the council to where it's supposed to be, then you become the power. You become the force to represent your community. And that is where we need to get Chicago back to. Strong council, weak mayor.
Was there any point in time in the past where that was so?
Not that I can remember. I mean, I remember back in the Mayor Daley days with the father being the mayor, then the son. It was strong mayor. It was strong mayor. And look at our communities. We have to become a strong council. And that's part of my plan in being elected, to help build a council to where it should be fairly and adequately and appropriately representing the people in which we serve.
Well, Vetress Boyce, if our listeners want to learn more about you, where should they go?
They can go to my Facebook page. It's Vetress, spelled V as in Victor, E, T as in Tom, R-E-S-S, last name Boyce, B as in boy, O-Y-C-E. So I am on Facebook. They can go to my website. It's Boyce, B-O-Y-C-E, F-O-R, the numbers 24.com. So that's Boyce for 24.com. My campaign office is at 4109 West Roosevelt Road. My beauty supply store is at 3722 West 16th Street in Chicago.
So you have to have someone to take care of it for you. You're so busy with the campaign.
Yes.
And what about the questionnaires? There are so many questionnaires for political candidates. Are you able to finish all of them, or how?
No, I'm not able to finish all of them. It's very time consuming. And in some cases, I pretty much think that, you know, a lot of the unions pretty much know who they're going with. That process to me needs to be revisited. It's just the way that things have been done. But for a candidate to complete every questionnaire is almost impossible. So there should be one questionnaire that the candidate should complete. It should be posted online with the various questions. And then, you know, the different entities should be able to go to that page and to just see, you know, the candidate's viewpoints on several issues. But it's almost impossible to complete all the questionnaires.
Were you able to get any endorsements as a result of those questionnaires, or did most of the endorsements go to the incumbent?
No, I have not picked up any endorsements yet. We do have 2 candidates in the ward that did get endorsements, but that's primarily because they're part of the union. They work city jobs. But a lot of the like the CFL and ASME, they remain neutral in our race. So they did not select a candidate in our race in a lot of cases.
And What about the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police? Have they endorsed anyone in the 24th Ward?
They did.
The incumbent?
No, it was not the incumbent.
Oh, okay. Well, Vetress Boyce, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today. And good luck to you and have a great campaign. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.